Hello everyone. Today, let's talk about economics. Where's China's real estate market headed? How much can Beijing and Shanghai's housing fall? After this episode, everyone will have a clear idea. Speaking of the term economics, it was actually translated by the Japanese, but the translation is problematic. Economics sounds like manager or similar terms, so calling it economics isn't scientific. Its true meaning is light and heavy study. Yes, it's the study of the light and the heavy. In the spring and autumn and warring states era, China's economics was advanced for its time. A representative work is Qingzhong's Guanzi. Sadly, Guanzi wasn't authored by Zhong. Why? Because Zhong lived a life full of pleasure. He never got around to writing a book. As Lao Wang often says, people only innovate when in dire straits. Zhong never faced such dire straits, so he didn't write his political strategies. That's someone with real talent, who talks about governance all day, and puts it in books, flooding the streets with them. These people actually don't understand governance, because they're so bored with nothing to do, that they write such things. Those who can truly manage the national economy well, they forget about it. Speaking of Zhong, his work, even if not written by him, even decades after his death, his followers pieced together a disjointed book. It's still worth reading. In fact, every Chinese should read this book carefully. It's as valuable as Confucius or Mencius' works. It offers lively examples and data from that era, similar in value to Jin Ping Mei and Dream of the Red Chamber. Dream of the Red Chamber and Jin Ping Mei offer fragments and specific data, revealing prices in Ming and Qing China, Chinese private lending rates, and details like Chinese restaurant menus. Guanzi provides such details from the pre-Qin era. This leads to the idiom Guanbao friendship. When Zhong was young, he and Bao Shuya were close friends. They hung out together. Bao Shuya's family was well off, while Zhong's family was poor. So, Zhong and Bao Shuya spent time together. From childhood on, he always took advantage of Bao Shuya. They went into business together, and Zhong always took more. For example, if they earned $100, Zhong was in charge of the accounts. He was quick-witted. He came back and told Bao Shuya. He said we only made 50, but he actually pocketed 50 himself. As for Bao Shuya, he was very honest. Bao Shuya knew it well, but he never made a big deal of it, because he thought Zhong's family was poor, while his own family was not. For him, business was to enrich life, so he was willing to turn a blind eye and let Zhong have profit. Zhong also knew it well. When battles came, at that time, nobles in the spring and autumn period had to fight personally. Once a battle started, Zhong would run back. He did this every time. Bao Shuya, as an officer, did not report him, and could tolerate him. Someone tied Zhong up, and asked why. Bao Shuya even pleaded for him, saying Zhong was the only male in his family. He had elders and children to care for. If he didn't run back, and if he were killed, who would fulfill filial duties, and who would support his whole family? So, these two close friends were comrades in adversity. The most interesting thing is, later, when they grew up, both were well learned. Duke Xian of Qi, the ruler, felt threatened by his two younger brothers. One was Prince Jiu, the other was Prince Xiaobai. So, he sent both of them abroad. He exiled them. He didn't want them in the capital Linzi of Qi. If they stayed in Linzi, he feared they might rebel. He didn't send them away lightly, but sent them into exile abroad. Prince Jiu's teacher, who went with him, was Guan. Prince Xiaobai's teacher was Bao Shuya. Later, Duke Xiang of Qi was unlearned, and was assassinated by a warrior. Upon hearing the ruler's death, these two princes, both saw their chance. Because they were two heirs, like one contender, and another, started racing to the capital. Whoever arrived first would become the new ruler. At this time, Zhong's quick wit came into play again. Zhong rode on horseback, and with special forces, ambushed Prince Xiaobai on his route. Prince Xiaobai and Bao Shuya didn't know, and encountered Zhong's ambush. Zhong shouted from the hillside, "Stop! If you listen, go back immediately, or I won't be polite." Then Prince Xiaobai said, "What should we do?" Bao Shuya said, "Don't worry, he and I have history. He owes me many favors. Let's ignore him, and keep moving forward." At this moment, Zhong felt a bit guilty, but thought of his duty and decided to act. He couldn't just pretend, so Zhong mustered his courage, drew his bow and shot at Prince Xiaobai. The arrow hit right on target, striking him in the stomach. Prince Xiaobai cried out and fell from the chariot. At that time, they rode chariots, and died on the ground. Right. Guan looked from afar, saw the arrow had hit and was stuck. He's lying dead on the ground. Guan felt a bit guilty inside. He didn't dare face Bao Shuya. Why didn't he go finish him off? He was afraid that if he went over, Bao Shuya would scold him. Nobles back then had a sense of honor. Old Wang will explain later why nobles truly value their honor, not like today's scoundrels with no shame. Feeling guilty, Guan left after doing the dirty deed. He was quite pleased, thinking he'd fully completed his mission. He'd shot Jiang Xiaobai dead. Now Prince Jiao could rest easy. He returned to report to Prince Jiao. I've killed your brother for you. Now you'll be the ruler. Wow, Prince Jiao was overjoyed. He was in no hurry on the journey back. They feasted and drank along the way. The counties along the route knew, oh, the other one's dead. This one's the future leader. So they were wined and dined all the way. But arriving at the capital, disaster. Jiang Xiaobai had already marched in. Why? His arrow shot was accurate, but it shouldn't have killed Xiaobai. It hit his belt buckle. Ancient belt buckles were made of jade. The arrow shattered the buckle. Xiaobai reacted quickly. He clutched the wound and fell, pretending to be dead. He fooled Guan. Guan was so cunning, not easy to deceive him. Why didn't he check the body? It was because of his tie to Bao Shuya. Bao Shuya glared at him with hatred. That's just old Wang's personality. I wouldn't check Zhai Shengying's corpse. If Zhai Shengying shouted once, I'd leave, thinking him dead. So both were captured. Prince Jiu, the rival, was executed. Guan was to be executed too. Then Bao Shuya said, don't kill him. Xiaobai said, he shot at me, tried to kill me. Why shouldn't I kill him? Bao Shuya insisted, you really can't. His talent is 10 times mine. His IQ is 5 times mine. He was my former superior. If you kill him, I can still govern this state well, but our state would remain ordinary. If you make him chancellor, it'll become the strongest state. He truly recommended him. Xiaobai was no ordinary man. Xiaobai was the famous Du Quan. He was young men. Du Quan, who valued talent, made Guan his chancellor. They began their close partnership. Their personalities were similar. Both valued honor greatly and paid great attention to detail. They had exquisite taste. Historically, a man's taste showed in 2 ways. One was his skill with women. On their campaign against Chu, Guan and Du Quan moved slowly. Their army had the best equipment. They walked for half a month, and hadn't left their borders yet. Mid-journey, they heard an old farmer. He didn't even understand the poem. Inside Guan's carriage, by the way, the mobile home was invented by Guan and Du Quan. It was truly the RV of its time. They used it as a love nest, making their journey very comfortable. Guan had beauties in his carriage. One of these beauties was with him. She heard it and explained it to Guan. She told him what poem the old man was singing, what allusion he made, and what it meant. From this detail alone, you can tell the caliber of women Guan attracted. Culturally speaking, and in terms of musicality, she was more advanced than Guan. Guan immediately summoned the old farmer, and said, let me see what you're really capable of. To his shock, the old man was even more talented, so he recommended him to Du Quan. Du Quan wasn't keen on going to war either. War is tough, after all. So he asked the old man, can you persuade the state of Chu to surrender? The old man actually went, and actually convinced Chu to surrender. He succeeded. That's another story altogether. If you're interested, you can read more about it. It just shows how skilled Guan and Du Quan were with women. Another aspect was their culinary standards. As you know, the ancient state of Qi was in Shandong. Shandong has 2 rivers, which flowed on either side of its capital. Guan and Du Quan's chef, their head chef, was named Yi Ya. Yi Ya was the executive chef. How skilled was he? He could taste water and tell which river in Qi it came from, taste the dish. And he'd know the year the firewood was harvested. This shows their pursuit of culinary perfection. Back to the main topic. In governing the state, they extensively applied the theory of light and heavy. An economic strategy for statecraft. What is the theory of light and heavy? When all is light, be heavy. When all is heavy, be light. In modern terms, the state uses a visible hand to control market prices, gaining monopolistic profits, replacing taxes on the populace. Through price fluctuations, they could exploit neighboring states, causing their people to migrate to our state. This enriched our demographic and resource dividends, gaining an edge in monetary warfare. There's a classic case in Guanzi. It's the strategy of Hengshan. As we know, Qi and Lu were constantly at war. Cao Gui's discourse on war is about their conflict. At that time, Qi was the stronger state, while Lu was relatively weak, but Lu's soldiers were formidable fighters, so Qi couldn't defeat Lu. Between Qi and Lu lay a state crucial to the war's outcome, Hengshan. Hengshan, like the mountain's name. In modern terms, Hengshan state produced what we'd call tanks, siege engines. These engines were heavy equipment, only Hengshan's people and factories could make them. They had proprietary technology. Before going to war, other states had to order these engines from Hengshan. So Hengshan's position tipped the balance between Qi and Lu. Qi had to secure Hengshan for a decisive military edge over Lu and others. But a direct attack was beyond Qi's capability. Hengshan itself was a military power. Its military tech was the best. Qi couldn't defeat it, especially with Lu behind. So Guan asked Zhong for a plan. Zhong said, "Here's what we do. First, we order engines from Hengshan, no matter the price. We don't haggle. We pay triple. We fill their order books. We even offer to pay more. After prices rise, and books are full, Lu will panic. Hearing this, Lu will also place orders, fearing our attack. Then Zhao and Qin will also worry. Zhao borders us. They fear we'll attack them. So Zhao will rush to order from Hengshan. Zhao and Qin are old rivals, so Qin will also rush to order. With everyone scrambling, Hengshan's engines will cost 10 times more. With prices 10 times higher, the whole state will focus only on this. Everyone will work on this one thing. They'll lack workers. They'll have a labor shortage. With all labor in arms production, no one farms food. Then, about half a year later, or 10 months in, we go to Zhao to buy grain. Here's a key detail. Why buy grain from Zhao? Why not from Qin? This detail tells us that, in the spring and autumn period, Zhao was the region's breadbasket. It was the grain exchange hub. So in Handan, Zhao, they sent their minister 10 months later to buy grain. No matter the price of grain, in Zhao, the original text states it was 15 coins. Once the economic minister ordered, it was 50 coins each. For 1 dan, the price rose over threefold. Zhao's grain was bought up instantly. Because Qi was very wealthy, so Qi acquired Zhao's grain like this. All grain suppliers heard Qi was hoarding grain, so carts and men transported grain to Qi's capital. The world's grain was concentrated in Qi's hands. It took 3 months, and Qi was piled high with grain. Grain prices tripled worldwide. By then, a year and a half had passed. The next spring arrived. Zhong had Guan withdraw military reps from Hengshan and recall the economic ambassador. "I don't want it anymore, sorry. I won't take the deposit either. I cancel that order and won't pay the balance. I don't need the engineering machines." Qi's engineering machine orders were cancelled. Those not yet in line, or not queued up, naturally, Lu's orders were cancelled too. With Lu and Qi cancelling, Zhao followed suit, and Qin as well. No one wanted Hengshan's engineering machines. Half-built, they were abandoned. But spring came, and grain was needed. Grain prices had soared tenfold. Qi seized the opportunity, going to Hengshan to ask, "Need grain? I'll sell it at 10 times the price." Hengshan's people fled en masse. All immigrated to Qi. With no customs to hinder them, they became Qi citizens, so over half of Hengshan's youth left. Famine spread among the people. Seeing this, Hengshan's ruler began diplomatic talks with Guan. Then Zhong sent an envoy to Lu, saying they had unsold engineering machines. But production was nearly complete. "How about we attack together? You from the south, me from the north, and dismember it. 50-50, deal?" Lu, unaware of the plot, agreed. Lu sent troops from the southern border. Qi didn't send troops from the north, but negotiated with Hengshan's ruler, saying, "You can't win. Just surrender. Surrender and lose only half. I'll grant you a noble title and a fiefdom, but merge your territory into mine, okay?" Hengshan's ruler thought, Lu's army presses from one side, Qi is rich, like America giving me citizenship today, and governor status. After thought, he accepted. From then on, Hengshan became part of Qi. This is the historical Hengshan strategy. Interested folks can read more on it. You might even find my old articles. The first person who couldn't figure out the Hengshan strategy was probably me, from 2008 to 2010. The Hengtian strategy conquered the state of Hengtian, and thus gained absolute advantage over the state of Lu. Then, one state refused to submit. The state of Chu. Because Chu's ruler was a king, while Qi's was a marquis. Duke, marquis, earl, viscount, baron. When Duke Guan of Qi first ascended the throne, he wasn't even a duke. He needed the major feudal states, especially Chu, to agree. But what if Chu disagreed? He decided to take on Chu. He targeted Chu's economy. Many Chu people fled to Qi. This is called Chu's deer. This economic war involved inflating the price of deer. Chu's mountains were rich in beautiful sika deer. Their hides were exquisite. Duke Guan and Zhong drove up the price. Chu's people abandoned farming to hunt deer in the mountains. In less than half a year, deer hides were hoarded, prices soared, but no one produced grain. Ancient times lacked grain distribution systems. By spring, everyone starved. Meanwhile, Qi had stockpiled ample grain. Qi's economy rose, while Chu's plummeted. When Qi suddenly stopped buying hides, Chu's economy fell into crisis. A mass migration from Chu to Qi occurred. This was the Chu's deer strategy. Thus, Chu submitted. It was subdued. Similarly, there was Dai's fox. The Dai's fox scheme was even more absurd. Dai's mountains were rich in fox furs. Legends spoke of a rare white fox there. Duke Guan proclaimed he would pay a sky-high price for Dai's white fox furs. A single white fox pelt was worth a fortune from Qi. Dai was a small state. Not only did commoners hunt for the fox, its ruler led guards to search personally. For 2 years, seeking his wealth. They toiled, they caught not a single white fox, but the whole state was utterly exhausted. It became Qi's vassal thereafter. How did he win the Zhou king's favor, gain promotions and titles, and become the top hegemon with Zhou's help? This involves the Yinli and Jingma strategies. Yinli is a place name. It was rich in a fine jade. This jade could make beautiful ritual vessels. According to Zhou writes, a piece of raw jade from Yinli, plus a Tong artisan, the character Tong, plus a Tong artisan, was essential for feudal lords' court rituals. But as the Zhou king's authority waned in the spring and autumn period, his economy was weaker than a mid-sized feudal state, so no one paid homage to the Zhou king anymore. At this time, Qingzhong had Yinli encircled. A 3-tiered city was built. All raw jade stones were transported inside. Jade craftsmen were gathered there. Jade discs with royal symbols were pre-made in sizes and values. Then, they got a license from the Zhou king. They told the Zhou king, Qi is now the strongest and richest feudal state. I'll lead in restoring homage ceremonies to you. Do you agree, Your Majesty? We'll cover all costs. The Zhou king said, I can't afford it, so Qi will donate to you. We offered to be the sponsor, and the Zhou king agreed. Great! Come quickly. But attendees must bring tribute and a jade disc. No feudal lord had such a disc, so they searched for it. At Yinli, they found a fortified city. Force or theft didn't work, they had to buy. Guanzhong and Duke Guan had set prices, based on rank, with the king's authorized symbol. Prices were sky-high. The lords were desperate. They paid up. After expenses and the king's fee, profits equaled 8 years of Qi's taxes. This was the Yinli strategy. The Jinmao strategy. The Zhou king got cocky and inflated. Seeing them profit easily, he asked to make money, too. By ancient Zhou ritual, the king led lords to function ceremonies. At the ceremony, entry required a ticket called Jinmao. It's a plant with a grass radical. Jinmao isn't a spear from elsewhere. It only grows in a small Yangtze area. The plant has 3 branches. A bundle of Jinmao was the entry ticket. Jinmao was only produced there. So Guanzhong had the king fence off its source. He said, we'll go to Fengshan, everyone must bring Jinmao. Then they jacked up Jinmao's price. To get tickets, lords paid high prices. Thus, the king made a fortune. This was the Jinmao strategy. Guanzhong manipulated goods prices to control and weaken rivals. Real war wasn't fought with armies. The best war attack strategies crush the enemy's economy first. This kind of wisdom is only found in the US today, but back in the era of the 5 hegemons, under the rule of Duke Guan of Qi and Guanzhong, China saw many such cases emerge. Thus, Qi had the lowest tax rate among the states, because its central government had economic tools, price regulation methods. It no longer needed to collect taxes. In other words, by monopolizing key resources and raising their prices, he taxed the entire realm through monopoly pricing. Salt and iron monopolies were learned from Zhong. Even today, tobacco and oil monopolies bear the shadow of his price regulation methods. Today's topic is China's real estate. The price trend of real estate. In 2010, I wrote an article. You can search for it. A 20-year forecast of China's real estate prices. This article is very short, because there's no need to write a long piece. What does it mean, in a few words? Why China's property prices kept rising non-stop. Governments view price hikes as natural as sunrise, like the sun rising and setting, a natural law. But this is completely wrong. The only reason for rising prices before 2020 was that Chinese people had nothing before. They were in abject poverty. Per capita living space was under 8 square meters. As China developed into a middle-income country, the economy grew rapidly, and living standards improved quickly. Every family had a strong demand for better housing. This demand was so strong, it fueled China's economic growth the most. In the 1980s, food and drink. In the 1990s, durable goods like appliances. And in the early 2000s, cars. After these sectors boosted the economy, from 2000 to 2010, the biggest growth driver was housing demand. This involved two massive demands. 1. Demand for improved and new urban housing. 2. Rural migrants' urgent need for housing. These two needs fueled the 20-year property boom. There were no other reasons. So if you see this point, you'll know what really limits real estate development. It's the demographic dividend. When the population bonus from these needs fades, everything will reverse. Any attempt to stop this trend is futile. Just like any policy in the past 20 years, whether purchase restrictions or loan controls, could not stop the price rise. On the contrary, since the start of the 2000s property boom, they didn't grasp correct real estate management. They knew nothing about proper balance. Act countercyclically, heavy when light, light when heavy. They had no concept of this. Instead, they went heavier when all was heavy. What does heavier when all is heavy mean? When everyone was chasing real estate, the Chinese government used it as a tax substitute. It solved fiscal difficulties for local and central governments. But it was a short-sighted solution. For every piece of land sold, 70% of the revenue went to various government levels. Developers only kept 30%. Faced with such profits, local governments became addicted, like to a drug. The central government was also hooked. In a market where they are both player and referee, how can there be genuine regulation? So what regulation should Zhu Rongji's government have done in 2000? When Lao Wang wrote this article in 2010, he had already precisely pointed out how to do it. Regulation was still possible then. The real estate bull market had only lasted a decade. It hadn't yet doubled in the next 10 years. Timely regulation back then would have prevented today's situation. How to achieve correct regulation? We should categorize all goods in the economy into 4 major classes. Category I, essential goods vital to the national economy and people's livelihood. For example, food, grain, gasoline, petroleum, diesel, basic means of production and subsistence, and commercial housing meeting basic residential needs. This is Category I. Category II, military and tech products crucial to national security. Category III, luxury items not essential to ordinary life, like luxury goods, jade, gold, art, collectibles, financial derivatives. These are Category III. Category IV is currency itself. The key to national macroeconomic governance is deciding which category real estate belongs to. Category I prices must be strictly controlled by the state. Directly intervene in supply and demand. Take grain, for instance. Why regulate grain prices? You fear people rebelling if they can't eat. But replace grain with commercial housing, and you forget, within 30 square meters per person, all such housing should be state supplied and state priced. Beyond 30 square meters per person, or 90 square meters per family, you should let the market decide. So, housing should be split into 2 types. One is low rent and public rental housing. One category is large villas. Don't worry if large villas skyrocket in price, because that has nothing to do with ordinary people. Ordinary people seek a decent life, without being overly extravagant. This standard is 30 square meters per person, which is a universal standard worldwide, and a biological standard for human habitation. Whether in Japan, the US, the UK, or Europe, prices are around 200, 300, or 500 square meters. If you allow unrestricted purchase, with no restrictions, and no loan limits, purely market regulated, the more these houses rise in price, the better it is for ordinary people. In fact, it's a good thing. It gives them more motivation in life. On the other hand, jade, antiques, calligraphy, and paintings, you can let them be speculated to any height, because once they crash, it won't affect the real economy or national security operations. All currency for the first two categories of goods, namely, goods related to people's livelihood and tech military in the national economy, must be completely controlled by visible hands in supply and demand. This is the fundamental solution to the real estate problem, and undoubtedly, over 20 years, we haven't seen any of the three central governments do even a bit of this work. So by 2020, the demographic dividend turning point I mentioned will definitely occur. Demographers have long told us, Chinese demographers told us back in 2000, that the turning point of China's demographic dividend would occur between 2020 and 2025. From that day on, China's population will be in negative growth. New births won't catch up with deaths due to the pandemic and the emergence of cells. So, it happened in 2020. If not for the emergence of cells, it would have happened in 2025. This is a natural law. The real cells can only affect it for 3 to 5 years, or 2 to 3 years, but in the long run, it cannot influence the trend. So today, Chinese people aren't having children. Chinese people are reluctant to have children, and reluctant to consume. Real estate prices will fall. So how far will it fall? To what extent? And how much room is there? This is also verifiable with data. Japan is similar to China. Japanese housing prices peaked in 1988. From 1988 to 1990, when it reached the peak, the most expensive houses in Tokyo were about $950,000 per square meter. Such houses in Japan fell by 75%. Average Japanese housing fell by 50%. Now, for houses in Beijing and Shanghai, China, undoubtedly, they are at the standard of Tokyo back then. Houses in Beijing and Shanghai have already fallen by about 20% from their peak. 20 to 25%. So, how much more is left? Exactly. There's still a 50% drop. From Beijing and Shanghai home peaks, currently, a 50% drop remains. This 50% drop is beyond any control. It's just a matter of time. If the state knows it's slow, seen as long-term illiquidity and low transactions, if the state is foolish, it will appear quickly. So, in this process, no matter how far prices fall, if there's a rebound, and transactions, someone offers to buy, sell it decisively. Any rise is just a rebound illusion. Think it'll return to the golden age? Wrong. Unless birth rates rebound, if China's birth rate is under 10 million, it never will. Shanghai core homes may hold up. Beijing. After the capital moved to Nanjing, how much did Beijing prices fall? History has records. So if Beijing relocates capital, or the regime wavers, Beijing prices will plummet. Consider Zhengzhou, Shenyang, Xi'an. Beijing has better education, but education moves to Xiongnan and will be fragmented. After a new capital is set, education resources shift there. Beijing becomes a deserted capital. Finally, to everyone, in 2010. 13 years ago, I wrote this. First, why do prices rise? The market is like grassland. With sun and rain, weeds grow wild. What's real estate's sun and rain? The demographic dividend. Young workers and urbanization fuel price rise. Now you know my 20-year prediction. No new people, no demand in aging society. Demand. The turning point is when dividend ends. Before that, prices rise anyway. Just how much? After that, everything reverses. If a country's financial system is sound, and its economic sectors are healthy, high housing prices after the demographic dividend ends will result in a market with prices but no buyers, but not a complete collapse, just like Japan today. But Japan paid the price with a lost currency war and a subsequent lost decade. If a country's economy relies solely on real estate, like the state of Henshin, then after the demographic dividend ends, a financial and economic crisis from falling prices is inevitable. What was the fate of Henshin's ruler? The answer was known 3,000 years ago. So, when exactly does China's demographic dividend end? Demographers have long had the data. First, sometime between 2020 and 2025, that is the turning point. Time is running out. If today's ruler still believes housing prices will rise forever, like the sun rising each day, as a natural law, only seeing the tax perspective, and missing the monetary perspective, then the ruler's foresight is truly embarrassing. A property tax, besides destroying the stock market, cannot suppress housing price increases within a decade. Only by categorizing commercial housing, with the state prioritizing currency, prioritizing agricultural products, and taking real action in real estate, by fundamentally changing the supply and pricing of housing, can a fundamental solution be found? Seeing this, it's no wonder the US, Canadian, Australian, New Zealand, and even Maltese embassies have immigration officers swamped with work. This reflects the economic distortions of Chu, Dai, and Hengshan. Bubbles are always accompanied by emigration waves. The nation's best and brightest take their wealth abroad. A great calamity for the state. Alright, I hope old Wang's words give you food for thought. Remember to follow, like, and comment often. Email old Wang with any questions. I'll interact with everyone in real time.